Hi, we are going to do some good talking today. I'm glad you joined us for this episode of Kilroy's Outlaws, Legends, and Behind the Music, and here we go.
Welcome to Kilroy's Outlaws and Legends Behind the Music with your host, multi-award-winning music producer, Eddie Kilroy. And now, here's your host, Eddie Kilroy.
Hey, how in the world are you? I'm glad you're here. I'm going to talk about a lady today that gives us some really good talking points, and that's one of my favorite female singers, Emmy Lou Harris. You bet. Emmy Lou, Lord, little country gal from Birmingham, Alabama. They make steel there, and they made Emmy Lou Harris there. So they're famous for steel and Emmy Lou Harris. Now, the lady came up there. Took her a little while, but she pretty much embedded herself in the music industry. I remember when she came to Nashville, and people pointed her out, said, that's a young lady from down in Alabama. And I said, oh, okay. And I would see her walking down the streets. And then there was a Meat and Three restaurant on Broadway, not far from the Ryman Auditorium. And she hired on as a waitress there and waited tables for quite a while at Lime Balls. In the meantime, when she wasn't waiting tables, she was walking up and down 16th Avenue with a baby on her hip. Yep, and she was waiting to want to get a record deal. So she was knocking on every record company door or every publishing company door, I guess, and kind of pacifying the baby a little bit. And finally, she went to California, kind of threw her hands up and said, nobody in Nashville, Tennessee likes me, so I'll just go out to California. A few weeks ago, we did one on Dwight Yoakam, and he experienced the same thing. He came to Nashville from Kentucky, and nobody in Nashville liked him. Believe it or not, the country music capital of the world told Dwight, hey, you're too country for us. Well, I'm getting off of Emmy Lou just to show you that there was a parallel between Dwight Yoakam and Emmy Lou Harris. Because after being turned down everywhere that she went in Nashville, she ended up going to California. And she started playing folk music out there. There was a lot of folk clubs that there were at that time around Sunset Strip and all around Hollywood. And she would play those folk shows. And then she started saying, well, there's other things in life, and she really wanted to do country. She was country at heart, but she was just trying to make a living. So she was out there in California doing that. And she met a guy by the name of Brian Ahern. And Brian was a musically inclined person that had been with the singing group before. And he started saying, hey, you can do other things. Let me show you about country. So she started really concentrating on her country roots, ended up making some noise out there, and came back to Nashville. This time she came back to Nashville with a head of steam. I mean, she came here to take the town by storm. And I'm sure that at that time, after enjoying success out in California, she would drive down Music Row and say, yeah, I remember when I knocked on that door and they didn't like me and my little baby was sitting there crying. And maybe she'd go down Broadway and say, Lime Balls Restaurant, that's still there. I poured a lot of coffee in that restaurant. And she had a lot of memories there, and they were not all fond memories, but she came back to make new memories in Nashville. And did she ever? First of all, she started getting a lot of records out that were really, really good records. And she was invited to join the Grand Ole Opry, and she did that. I think the thing that really kicked her off in Nashville and gave Emmy Lou Harris the boost that she needed was when she did the trio album with Linda Ronstadt, the great Dolly Parton, and Emmy Lou. That was a great album, and it went top of the charts. She was ready to start rocking, and she was doing a lot of things. She did a really great duet with the wonderful Roy Orbison. Boy, he could sing so high he could go duck hunting with a rake. I mean, he could hold a note for a long, long time. But she also did one with Ringo Starr. Matter of fact, she was, after she joined the Opry, those of you who don't know, the Opry is referred to as the Opry, but really it's the Grand Ole Opry from Nashville, Tennessee. I used to listen to it and listen to the announcers also. on WSM radio. But nevertheless, she recorded with Ringo Starr, did an album too, Grand Ole Opry, and oh man, she had 14 Grammys, counting some nominations. I think, I'm going to guess this, I don't know. Out of 14 nominations for a Grammy, I'm going to say that Emmy Lou probably actually got 6 or 8 Grammys. I know because I was keeping up with it because humbly I say that I was elected to the board of NARAS, which is the Grammy Association, National Association of Record Manufacturers. And wow, her Grammy Awards were really, really special. And being Female Vocalist of the Year for the Country Music Association was another badge that she wore. She picked up some old country songs. There was two brothers called the Louvin Brothers, and they were popular long ago, like in the late 50s, early 60s. Yeah, Ira and Charlie Louvin. Matter of fact, the first home I ever bought in my life, I bought from Charlie Louvin. But anyway, they had some harmony songs that were really, really good, and she picked up a couple of those. One of them was Making Believe That You Still Love Me. I can't recall the rest of them. I should, but I don't. But she did a lot of wonderful things up there. And what I know of Emmy Lou Harris is she was a kind and gentle spirit. And she did a lot of stuff around Nashville, but she was very low-key. In the early days when you would see her walking up and down the streets of 16th Avenue, no longer did she walk up and down the streets of 16th Avenue because she had a record deal. And look at the people that came out of her band called the Hot Band. How about a guy by the name of Ricky Skaggs? Yeah, a lot of people like Ricky, including me. But, however, a gentleman that emerged from the Hot Band is definitely one of my favorite country singers from Oklahoma, Vince Gill. Does he sing as clear as a bell? That goes to show you that Emmy Lou Harris had an instinct of whom to put in her band. Barry Gordy, G-O-R-D-Y, yeah, Barry Gordy Jr. was part of the Hot Band. He was also a great bass player and did a lot of sessions in Nashville, a lot of leader on a lot of them there. She did, her first album out there that she did in California was The Elite Hotel. And it was highly regarded by industry people and did pretty good with the public, too. It went up the charts a long way, but nothing like the trio album she did with Linda Ronstadt and with Dolly Parton. Of course, you know that's going to be, you put Dolly Parton on something, whew, Lord have mercy. You got a hit album, I guarantee you. Dolly Parton couldn't try to, in those days, she couldn't try to fail. I mean, she couldn't fail. It was one of those deals. And she loved Emmy Lou Harris also. So there was a relationship there between the three that really, really kicked her off. And she, you know, I'd like to tell you that she was someone that I spent a lot of time with. That's not true. I didn't. But I admired her music. I admired her tenacity in hanging on and trying and keep hanging on and trying. And then boom, she hit it. And she has so many royalties, I expect, coming from so many genres of music, from folk to country rock to country to the trio album. Also, one of my favorite movies was Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? She was very, very instrumental in the music of that music. So she just spread her little wings and she flew around and was very successful. Well, I hope that you enjoyed something I had to say about Emmy Lou Harris. Right now, I want to talk about our great sponsor, Total Feeds. Total Feeds is just a special company, and a special gentleman by the name of Dr. Harry Anderson puts everything together. A brilliant, brilliant man. Total Equine Horse Feed. We've been on our horses for, 6 years, or 16 years, I should say. Total Canine for the dogs. Total People for people like me, believe it or not, or for you, it'll make you feel better. Total Bovine for some of those bucking bulls in the PBR and Pro Rodeo. Man, they are doing good on that. And I'm telling you what, I hope you enjoyed this, but I got to saddle up and drift. This is Kilroy saying God bless each and
Thanks for
every one
listening
of
to
you.
this episode of Kilroy's Outlaws and Legends Behind the Music. If you have any thoughts or questions about the content, email them. Kilroy Outlaws and Legends, all one word, at yahoo.com. That's Kilroy, no S, Outlaws and Legends, all one word, at yahoo.com. And don't forget to subscribe. Third-party use of any part of this podcast without the expressed consent of Eddie Kilroy is prohibited. The Kilroy's Outlaws and Legends Behind the Music podcast is a production of Eddie Kilroy.